I can't even look at myself half the time from the years 2015 to 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing. I used to be very cringe.
I'm Brian Hyatt, senior writer at Rolling Stone. I want to welcome Charlie Puth to the Rolling Stone interview.
Thank you for having me. My friend Brian.
Good
to
to
be
see
interviewed
you, man.
by a friend is good.
Your new album feels like someone really finding themselves. And I think you've said that the big question is what it took to get there. But one of the steps along the way was actually a very public moment, which is when Taylor Swift sang about you.
Yeah, you called me, remember?
I texted you. You immediately called me.
Because, I mean, it's something to call someone about.
Yeah.
It was pretty shocking. I don't know if that was like the moment where I realized that I needed to write a certain kind of music, but it was definitely affirming that one of the biggest stars in the world knows me. So I better write something good, because maybe she and some others will hear it. But that was a fun day. Time goes by very quickly. That was over a year ago now.
Yeah. And I think the original thing that happened after you heard about that is you decided to release that song, Hero.
I did, and then I realized I kind of rushed into putting something out, and I kind of sat with myself and thought maybe I should, for the first time in my career, actually make an album. Because I don't know if you know this, I've never sat down and said, let's make an album and then release it. It's always, we have this song, X, Y, and Z says the song's doing well, we need to put it out. And while I'm at the time doing all the radio promo and whatnot, going on TV and doing all the performances, I'm going back to my hotel and making an album. And it was especially true with the first album, a little less true with the second album, kind of the same thing with the third album. But the fourth album, this album, Whatever's Clever, is the first time where I just sat down. I had a lot of time and I just didn't really open the internet. I just stayed with myself and Blood Pop in this case, and just made a full body of work. So I wasn't really chasing my tail, but it's been years of, almost a decade of chasing my tail.
Hero, you originally introduced as the first single from your new album, and of course it's not on the album.
What the hell was I talking about? That's not true. I think I sometimes just get a little ahead of myself. I find out new things about myself every day, and musically, music helps me discover new things about myself every day. And I wasn't ready to put out an album at that point, but because of that nice message from her, we are where we are today.
Did you scrap stuff that went along with Hero?
We scrapped an entire record just because it felt so rushed. It sounded good, and people said I sounded good. I thought it sounded good. It was kind of like a lot of gotchas in what the songs were about too. Sometimes I have to practice what I preach. I fell into my own trap of don't ever just get it done, like actually put intent behind it. And I had a collection of songs that sounded good, but like were missing the gut punch. And I remember Max Martin called me one day and said in his very soft tone, "Do you know what I miss from a Charlie Puth record? I'm missing some of the emotion lately." And I thought to myself, oh my God, how could I let myself get to this point of where I just feel like I have to be on a song conveyor belt and I just have to get things done.
It's interesting to look back because there's a lot of moments in your career where you're sort of taking feedback from people and deciding they were right. There's the moment in 2019 when Elton John said those songs were no good. And then after your first album, a lot of critics were negative on it, even though it was a huge success, and you kind of decided the critics were right. You do internalize these critiques and try to change and evolve.
Yeah, not anymore. but I think it's a part of growing up. I have still to this day, a very normal amount of insecurity. And if you rewind back to 2015, where I was just brutally beat up online for some of the music that I put out, just because there was no real artistic identity yet, and sonically it was in this world, and then you jump into this world. All of the pitchforks in the world, they kind of panned my music for no consistency and whatever, and it's gimmicky, and which I admit at points they were right. Maybe that's me critiquing myself, but I think this is the first time where, again, I sat down in a room and put the message first, and then let the music happen. No aggressively like wanting people's approval.
When we spoke in 2022, I think towards the end of the conversation, I just went back and saw that you actually said, it would be cool if I used a live
I said
band.
a lot of crazy shit in 2022. I can't wait to hear this.
No, well, you said, you know what? Like you were thinking of it for the first time. You were like, maybe I should use a live band on my next album.
See, I didn't know I said that. It sounds like something I would say, because we ended up doing that, and that's what we'll end up doing on tour as well. And it makes me wonder why I always shied away from that. Maybe it's maybe it's a distant cousin related to insecurity or something.
Well, I think up until now, you were always very consciously working in the idiom of what's sort of going on in pop. Sometimes you were trying to push it forward, sometimes you were leaning back, but you were always very aware of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
This is the first time when you basically seem to say, fuck it, I'm going to make exactly what I want.
You're correct. And you've been correct a lot about my music. I mean, it's all subjective, of course. Why wouldn't I do the thing that felt most comfortable to me? And that's worked, by the way. Attention is like a soul-ish kind of record with nice chords that Babyface would use.
I just want attention. You don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new.
It's not just E flat minor. It's like E flat cluster, whatever. Like all the notes in between. It's the production reminds me of something that, like Quincy Jones, how he would approach. Not that I'm comparing myself to the great Quincy, but it's something that I was inspired by listening to the dude, and Back on the Block, and all of those like wonderfully masterful productions, like the richness of it, I've always loved in my music. And I don't know, I guess I take people's opinions to heart, or did take. I still do. Who am I kidding? I still take people's opinions to heart. I'm just more aware of, more than ever, of what I love, what I want.
The Jonas Brothers just said that if there's one song that they could have recorded in the last like 20 years, that was it, actually.
What was it?
Attention.
Attention?
Yeah.
That's a big compliment. That's very nice.
They were like, that could have been a number one song for us. I wish we got that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They would have sounded great on that.
Yeah.
That's my song.
Right now you're like, shit, maybe I should have given it to Jonas.
You know what's fun? My favorite Jonas Brothers song, and my wife makes fun of me, but it is Waffle House.
No, don't get stressed, it's gonna get figured out. All deep conversations at the Waffle House. Headstrong father and undetermined mother.
I think John Bellion's a genius, and they say whatever they want about the lyrics. It's like, it's that kind of song. It's left of center. Musically, and if you listen to that, and they have another record called Vacation Eyes on, I think it's their most recent album. It is musically so rich and just musical, and they took a lot of risks on that record, which I really appreciated. And I'm sure John pushed them as well. Just to shout out the Jonas Brothers for a second. I love those guys.
When you look back at See You Again now, how does that kind of like, how do you see it?
I see it in the same way. I remember crying when I saw it hit number 1 on iTunes. I look at it as the life changer.
It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
July of 2014, living with my lawyer in the Hollywood Hills and working double sessions, being with Mike Will and Ray Shremmerd at starting at 10 p.m., ending at 7 a.m., and then getting up, getting like 2 hours of sleep, and then doing another session at 12 with Brayon Isaac, and just falling in love with Los Angeles, the city that changed my life, and just meeting so many people like at Berklee, like-minded musicians who wanted music to be their career. Now I eat, sleep, and breathe that, and it's kind of like a fantasy. And that with along with people suddenly know me. Uber drivers recognize my song. They would turn that song up, and I was 23, and I was like, "Do you like this song?" And they said they love this song. And I'm like, "That's me singing. I wouldn't do that now." Or maybe I would.
Yeah.
I loved that people loved my song so much. I remember took a lot of Ubers. I remember playing We Don't Talk Anymore demo for my Uber driver. She was like, "Before you go, that whatever you just played, that's a special song." And I'll never forget that. I got dropped off at my house, and I said, "Thank you." I still love interacting with people musically, and I did that most in LA.
And See You Again
That was 2014.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be for, you thought Sam Smith was going to sing the hook.
They were going to sing the hook, and then I think Skylar Grey sang the hook, and I think Jason Derulo sang the hook. And Chris Brown sang the hook. To go from just the internet world to suddenly all these A-list artists wanting to sing your song, it happened overnight for me. And I wrote the song technically unpublished. So it's like I had all this attention from all these record labels just overnight. But that song was written because my friend who had passed 2 years prior to writing it always told me that I would write that song. So I wrote it for him.
And it became this whole other thing.
Yeah. And what's great is that people who were born 10 years ago are listening to it today, and it feels like a brand new song for them. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's the power of music.
One thing that a lot of people I think don't know, and it's a really cool tie-in to your Jersey roots and your Rumson roots, is that the song really owes a lot to Bruce Springsteen.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that it has that chord progression that he used in My City of Ruins.
Yeah. How do you remember this?
And chord progressions, but I was thinking about it's not even just the chord progression. It has that. You were a fan of The Rising. You were, because you're young. You didn't go all the way back with Bruce. That was the first Bruce album you connected with.
But the reason why it was the first, it's kind of a sad example of the reason why it's my first Bruce album was because my town that I lived in was still a Wall Street sleeper town, and there were a lot of people who lost their lives in 9/11. And I was a year, almost, I think half a year, he wrote that record pretty quickly. I remember going to Jack's Music Store in Red Bank, New Jersey, and picking it up and hearing it and just being so blown away. Like I felt like he wrote something for me personally. I and my friends who actually lost their moms and dads, like they felt the same way.
My city of ruin. Come on, rise up.
It was the first time I heard like a superstar, like Bruce. I'd never imagined meeting Bruce Springsteen, but like for his Jersey ties, I felt like close to him, and like it was the first time I ever felt that with any artist.
You mentioned We Don't Talk Anymore, which is a great song.
We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to.
You played it during your residency, and people thought that it was some kind of like subtweet of your duet partner's marriage or something.
Because why? Because I played it?
Because you played it around the time of
Well, no. I mean, what am I not going to change the set list?
That's what I was going to say. It's like your song, you get to play it, right?
That felt really good to open up that set list with We Don't Talk Anymore, and we changed the key on it and kind of stretched it out. And no, that's interesting, but no, that's not why I played that.
You played it because it's one of your good songs.
It's just I legitimately love that song. Some of my songs, like there's a song called "Smells Like Me," which on my third album, which I really like a lot, and I'll unironically like listen to my own music I'm sure I'll get, that'll be the headline. I'll get torched for it. He's so impressed with himself. I love music. I love music that I wrote. I love music, not all my songs, but I love music that my friends wrote. I love making music with my friends. I love it all.
Was Benny, are you and Benny cool after whatever that was?
Oh my God, yeah. I will have immense respect for Benny always, because he's the reason why I learned Pro Tools. He's the first producer in the early days of YouTube. I would see him do interviews like this, breaking down how he produced Circus by Britney Spears in Pro Tools. I bought my first vintage synthesizer because of Benny Blanco. And I told him that too. I talked to Benny the other day. He's a character.
Yeah, I asked because you had that weird, that internet thing or whatever.
I'll never know what that was. And I tell him that too. I'm like, what was that? He was like, isn't it crazy?
He won't explain it still?
No, he never will.
Weird. Yeah. Yeah, it was like a thing where he was like beefing with you, and it was unclear to the world and unclear even to you the extent to which it was a joke.
It was unclear to me too, because then he'd be like, okay, we're done. Now let's and then we would make the best song ever. Just seeing him like work in Pro Tools and like he'd tap a glass and like, pitch it down and turn it into an 808. Like that's like the reason why I do that is
him. Wow.
Because of him and a couple of other people. But when Benny and I are linked musically, it's like, I'm like such a fan of him still.
To kind of complete the circle on the Taylor lyric, did that in fact put a bit of a fire under you to live up to this shout out? Because it was a kind of a big deal. It got a huge amount of attention.
I understood exactly what she meant, I think, or at least I think I did. I understood exactly what she meant to be a quote bigger artist. I think you have to let people in a little bit more, and maybe to your point, I hadn't let people in as much as I should have in the beginnings of my career. It was, again, like I said before, more about making sure that A, B, and C were happy and people were happy. But was I happy? I was happy. I was having a good time, but now I'm really happy. And in fact, right after, I remember it was Brooke's birthday, my wife, Brooke. My wife. Everyone makes fun of me now. I just talk about my wife constantly.
You can be a wife guy.
I'm a wife guy.
Yeah, no,
I'm very
cool.
happy to be a wife guy. These songs will just pop into my head, and I heard this lyric called "I Used to Be Cringe," and like why? Like the title itself is cringy. It's like, what do you mean? You can smell the comments as they say "used to be," of all the crazy things I've done in the past. What do you mean used to be cringe? I'm like, that's an interesting song title. What would that sound like? It's all just because Taylor had said something about me. It was just like, it gave me enough excitement to write another song in my head, and now we're ending the album with that. I think it's track 12.
Yeah, it's the closing track on the album, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album, and it's incredibly honest, and it's very specific, and it raises the question, in your opinion, when were you the most cringe?
I think when I dyed my hair blonde just to get reactions. That's literally a lyric in the song, saying things in interviews that weren't true just to get because I was told by higher ups that I'm a white guy with brown hair, literally what they said. I need some excitement around my project. We need drama. And I didn't know what it meant to be an artist. I started out writing music for other artists. So I made tons of mistakes along the way. The blonde hair was really bad. I don't know what I was thinking there.
You had a lip ring at one point.
Yeah, man. It wasn't real either.
It wasn't real.
I would like talk differently. In 2016, I would like kind of, I don't know. It's like and again, it's part of like, I think, a young man growing up and knowing himself, but not acknowledging the nucleus, and being very influenced by those around him. Sometimes I would be super influenced because those comments that, again, the higher ups, at the record label, whatever former management would make, they were sometimes right.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if they're right about that, they must be right about making up a bullshit story because it'll make the song more exciting and then thus make more sales for them. Like none of that was who I am. I can't even look at myself half the time. From the years 2015 to 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I used to be very cringe.
And part of ceasing to be the kind of cringe you're singing about the song is acknowledging that, right? And stop. And it's basically that you're not, at some point you realize you're not going to try to be some like super cool version of yourself.
Yeah. It's never going to happen. I would, in the past, go to a radio show. This is when Attention was out. I would go to a radio show and I would tell myself, you're going to put on a cool guy accent because you have a big song out right now. You have to like, do this, and like smoke the metaphorical cigarette and be like a musician. I would literally say, I was 25 or something at the time. I would tell myself that. And then I would do it for like 2 minutes, and I'm super sensitive, and I would notice that the radio host or whoever was interviewing me was seeing that like something was different, and I would immediately just talk too much, step over my words, but then I'd catch myself. It was like an internal battle. And by the way, I was still trying to answer questions that they were asking me, so I was just like, so much inauthenticity, but like the authenticity trying to wash over it, but I was pushing back against it because I thought I had to be a certain way to be popular.
When did you sort of have the realization that, hey, I'm going to drop all that?
I think when Brooke became a serious part of my life, it was like weird to do that in front of her because it's someone I've known all my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always tried to stop it, but my yearn for what I think would please people would always take over. And then I really just think, I seriously think the male frontal lobe doesn't develop as quick. And I really think scientifically it's that it just took me a while as I was growing up, to grow up.
What were the first songs that you wrote for Whatever's Clever?
First song that I wrote for Whatever's Clever was technically I Used to Be Cringe. I thought of it on the way.
Oh, that was the start. Okay.
Yeah, that was the start. Didn't write anything down. I never write anything down, but that was just me in the car, and it just popped into my head, exactly as it sounds. I always envisioned it like that. The second song that I wrote was a song called Cry featuring Kenny G, track number 3. And that was.
I like the way you said it was that you, as if you wrote it featuring Kenny G immediately, which maybe, well, you know what I mean? Maybe in your head, Kenny G was already featured in it.
Me and Blood Pop looked at each other while we were making that song and thought we need to put Kenny G on this because it just felt like Sade. It felt like 1988. Yeah. And I texted him and he said he'll get to it the week prior, and he sent it back right away because he was like, I just love the record so much. But I wrote Cry for my dad, and I really resisted that. Blood Pop has a really unique way of making, even outside of music, he has a very unique way of making me feel uncomfortable yet comfortable. The first that he came in with a big whiteboard and said, okay, we're gonna have some really tough conversations. I'm like, okay. And I started getting acid reflux, and he was like, why haven't you written a song about your dad? I'm like, why do you? And I got like kind of defensive, like, I don't want to talk about my dad. I just want to collaborate with you and make, bops. I don't want to get too deep, is what I legitimately said to him. And he was like, your dad's going to want a song one day. And then a week later, his mom passed away, and the song's called Cry. And it's basically about not being afraid to show emotion. Like you can don't be afraid to show emotion. Don't be the brick wall, which my dad can sometimes be. He's very emotional, but doesn't always let it show. It's like Blood predicted the future. And it's like, he's going to need that song one day. As we were at the funeral, I thought to myself, well, we got to finish that, because turns out he does need it. And then I told Blood that, and he was like, told you, in a very anticlimactic, non-emotional way as he does.
Yeah, to take a step back, Blood Pop is a really fascinating producer I've never talked to, but I really want to because I've heard so much about him. I know he worked with Grimes, he worked
Yeah.
with Gaga,
Yeah.
and Chromatica Era, and a bunch of other stuff. And he's also a video game designer, which apparently he multitasks in the studio.
Oh
with that?
yeah, he started the beat off to Cry, the little that was made on his gaming PC, because I guess it's a way by him designing a game and not directly working in Ableton and making a record. He kind of uses his subconscious, and he designed a DAW in this game. I don't understand it. He's like coding, and it's unbelievable. But he's technically making a song, but he's in the Discord talking to people, testing out his game, and then sending me files, and I'm making music.
And you're in the room at the same time, right?
Yeah, we're
Doing
in the
this-
room at the
yeah.
same time. I'm hearing the chat go off, and
Are you ever like, I was thinking about that because as much as it's his process, ever like, dude, could you put the game thing away and work on the Charlie Puth album?
no, I never once was like that because I was just getting such great sounds
Yeah.
from him. And I'm a song guy. I can get the sound
Yeah.
to sound the way that I want it to, but I much prefer someone giving me something really creative. This album is a result of a super digital world turning into an analog world, taking all the digitized versions of things that were at times quite frankly, not very musical, and then putting them through the Pultec, putting them through the tape machine, putting them through the LA2A and the Copycat, and making music in a traditional way.
The
Sometimes
Copycat is like a tape delay, right?
Yeah, it's a tape delay.
Jack Antonoff also was obsessed with the Copycat.
Yeah, that's who I got it from.
Oh, you got it from-
I didn't get it from him specifically, but
You heard about him
I heard
talking
about
about it,
him
yeah.
using it. I'm like, I have to use that.
But it's not just that, and that's one of the things that's fascinating about this album is that it has this kind of, late 80s, early 90s
Mm-hmm.
vibe. People have heard changes by the time this comes out. They'll have heard "Don't Beat Yourself Up."
Some changes in life.
It's like this airy Bruce Hornsby kind of like adult pop
Yeah.
of that era with horns and real drums and
Yeah.
wonderful guitars that often draw on that kind of like that Porcaro
Yes.
Human Nature
Yeah,
style,
absolutely.
which is the most amazing style of guitar.
Damn, you're working at the right place
so-
because you just described the album perfectly, better than I could have.
Well, yeah, that's my job.
It's your
but your job is to make the music.
Sure.
But it's so weird that it came from, or so interesting that it came from this other process first of you and Blood Pop like fucking around with electronics, and
Yeah,
then
the internet
getting-
world.
Yeah,
And
weird.
pulling up X and showing me all these crazy memes and him designing a game, but using his FM synthesizer on his computer that he built into his game, and I get it sent to my computer via AirDrop, or just recording it straight in, and I just get why he sent it to me. I get why he played me this, a gong, a hilarious lo-fi gong sound. Gong. And it's like comical. It's like what you'd use in a cartoon. But when you take this, there's this plugin called Peel. All my producer friends know it's called Peel. It's like a digital distressor. It takes any piece of audio and just disintegrates it and
Wow.
makes a super digital artifact. It's like $50. It's
Right.
an amazing tool.
So were you then overdubbing these live musicians onto these tracks, or were you using those tracks as a basis and then starting over, or was it both, or how did you?
I would take the synthesized bass, for example, and then get Pastor Funk, who is a really talented artist, talented bass player, obviously, and in my band as well. And he'd hear it and put the human touch on it and wouldn't deviate away from like what the sample was. And Stanley, drummer, who I sometimes play with, he's on tour with Stevie Wonder, just leans into that pocket so well. And it was about taking the drums from the gaming PC, which were sometimes just like shitty little loops, and then turning them down minus 10 dB and have Stanley play over it and just get the room of, we recorded at Conway, and get the room of like Studio A and just marry the two sounds together, which, you know, has been done before, but I had never taken that approach before.
I would say on Washed Up, you almost sound like a new artist.
I appreciate you listening, by the way. That's you know your stuff. That's the me experimenting. I always loved it when John Lennon on Sgt. Pepper's would run his voice through all the like delay pedals and reverbs and effects, but you'd still know it's John Lennon. That's maybe where I got that inspiration from. And I'm always fascinated with like Eventide harmonizers and tools used in the early 90s, late 80s for maybe it was used for people who knew how to sing, but if the musician wasn't particularly the best singer, it would widen their voice.
There's a bunch of really interesting features. There is a full-on yacht rock song with both Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins.
That's
and
right.
That's just like an amazing moment.
We wrote that in my living room.
And did you write that with them?
Yeah, wrote the chorus and then finished the song at Conway. Apparently I really like Conway.
And what did you take away from that experience of working with them?
That I'm not alone, that there are musicians that have been doing it for much longer than I, that have a very similar approach to chords and implementing all the jazz into pop music. And I slapped myself on the head. I'm like, Doy, of course, you got all that stuff from the two people, the two legends that are sitting on your couch writing the song with you right now. So it's a reminder that I'm not alone.
Michael McDonald, I mean, like, you know, that's crazy because this is, in addition to all his own stuff, this is the guy who sang on all the Steely Dan stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history there.
All those complicated harmonies.
Yeah.
And Donald Fagen telling him to sing on the peg all over the place.
Did you come in with something that you'd started for that?
No, nothing.
Wow.
I just
Wow.
kind of felt the energy, and Kenny was like, let Mike play the piano. Because I was playing something, we weren't really going anywhere with it. And the two of them were like kids in a candy shop. They had never seen, usually you have like, when they were making these records, they have, you know, the drummer over here, and I have the virtual drum machine in Contact. And they were like, what's that? I'm like, it's the sound, it's like Addictive Drums. And they're like, it's a fake drum, but made to sound real. And they heard it and they were like, that's punchy.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's so funny. Mike McDonald, he has the same approach as Amy Allen. And
That's so interesting.
It just reminds me that like all music really is the same.
That's fascinating. So it wasn't that different from being with like some young co-writer.
It
That's
wasn't
what's really
different
interesting.
with both of them. It wasn't different at all.
That's fascinating.
It was really, really,
Well, what we
really
didn't address
cool.
is what made you want to do your own yacht rock song.
back in 2019, I was at Pache with a couple. Oh, you know who? It was Ariana Grande who played Show Me the Way by Thundercat.
Whoa.
And Kenny Loggins. She was like, do you know this? I recognized, I could taste it. It was on the tip of my tongue. And she was like, this Thundercat bass player with Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald. Wow, when did this guy miss this? 78, 79? She was like, no, 2018, last
Yeah.
year. So she put me onto that concept, and that always stuck with me. I'm like, well, one day I'm going to make a song in that world.
And then I love your song with Coco Jones. What's that one called?
It's called Sideways. I love that song.
That's really cool. It has like these like dark, cloudy chords, really cool feel to it.
Yeah, Elton told me a song by Sade. He told me about a song by Sade called Pearls, and I had never heard it. There's a woman in Somalia. And right before his lush string part, it sounded like they recorded like a 60-piece orchestra. And he was like, you should listen to that, young man. And I'm like, I will. And I was really taken aback by the strings and those chords in particular. And I think that might have kick-started the song off.
Your voices go really well together. Were you together physically or
No.
Wow.
I
never can
actually,
tell.
I re-recorded my voice to kind of, any guest I'll have on a record, I'll always kind of shape my voice to fit them a bit. with Selena, with Coco, with Raven. I'll always, with Gabby Barrett on her song I Hope, I always kind of take a back seat and think, how can I support the real the real singer in this case, even though I'm a real singer too. But I just want to, I'm most concerned about blending in. And Coco has such a powerful, almost operatic voice, and I don't, but I have an airy voice. Maybe I can add some air to her standalone voice and kind of like be her background singer in her verse.
Yeah, you kind of adjusted the timbre of your voice to kind of...
Instead of to the back of the throat. My vocal coach Eric Vitro would be like, not exactly, but that's how I think of it.
Wow, who is Eric Vitro not the vocal coach of? That's crazy. Wow.
I'm working with I've worked with some fabulous vocal coaches. He's one of them, and he is fabulous. He's just so fun to talk to. So such a wonderful guy.
Yeah, I talked to him about training Timmy to be Bob Dylan.
I didn't know Timothy Chalamet could sing, and Eric made that happen.
The idea of learning to be Bob Dylan, of course, is a whole different vocal thing.
All respect to actors. I mean, he's a wonderful actor. I've found out recently that I am a very bad actor. I can only be myself, which is funny because I spent years trying not to be myself.
Why do you think you're a bad actor?
Just I'm hearing the way that I speak, and I'm overthinking. I think I overthink a lot. I think my OCD, diagnosed low OCD, aren't we all? And I'll play my voice back as I'm speaking, and I think the casting director will be like, let's do that again.
You've said that you had a certain amount of insecurity with your voice, and you perhaps compensated by using tuning too much in the past.
Oh yeah, third album I tuned my voice way too much. Absolutely admit that. There were less people to check me because pandemic, being in the room, Conway again, by myself. That album sold millions of copies. Very happy with the success of that album, and I will forever play music on that album for the rest of my life because I really, really love that album. But if I were just to critique myself a little bit, it would have been nice to just get one take of the verse. I was really punching in because I just wanted people to like my music so much. And if I went off tune, I felt like that would like piss people off, or it would like make them mad, and I want them to be happy. It's a very outdated way of thinking, and something that I speak out against a lot now. I'd always tell aspiring songwriters and artists to embrace the imperfections.
There's also like a lot of like sort of imaginary like sort of concerns in your head about people being mad at you and stuff like that. Seems like sort of more like frankly psychological issues than
Oh no, I'm sure I'll need years of therapy. I always think people are mad at me.
Yeah,
I always do. Yeah, outside of music, I always, even now, like I'm speaking to a friend and someone I've known for years, and I'm like very comfortable speaking to, and it has nothing to do with you, but like I still am like in the back of my mind, like don't say, like, your publicist is over there and management's over there, don't say anything stupid. Like you've been known to say stupid things, like or you're stuttering too much. It's like you're talking over yourself. I'm always afraid of disappointing people, and I don't feel like that's ever gonna go away. I can certainly chip away at it, but I sometimes wish I was better with my words and I could speak more like an artist, but maybe that is the way that I speak.
On a related thing, I mean, you have, I don't know if people have heard this, but you have perfect pitch.
Yeah, I don't know if I've made that blaringly obvious over my little parlor trick.
Yeah, just we wanted to break some news, and that's the news. But I don't know how it works when you have perfect pitch, but by its nature, the human voice is going to be imperfect. You're going to miss notes. And I don't know if that drives you nuts or not. Like that, if that's a problem, like with singing.
It never does, as long as it's intentional. But if I look at a C sharp, I hear it in my head, and that's a lot of people with perfect pitch.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one, but I see what I'm about. I can hear what I'm about to play before I play it. And that goes with in tangent with songwriting too. I can hear the song. I used to be cringe. I can hear the song before it's written. I can hear it almost completed. And sometimes I'll be sure of it in my mind, and then I'll hear it to tape on the Pro Tools, and I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll change that.
So speaking of whatever vocal insecurity you might have, you're doing the national anthem at the Super Bowl.
The hardest song ever written.
The hardest song ever written. I saw your TikTok where you're trying to explain like just how high and how big the range is.
I mean, to go over that again, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, somewhere is an octave.
Right.
I have to go, oh, say, can you see in the rocky red glare? It's the hardest song ever written.
And for some reason, like Whitney was brought into the conversation, and it's like, oh, now you have to, match the Whitney Houston.
I think the reason why they brought that up
Because New Jersey, right?
is because of New Jersey,
Yeah.
and she's from Newark, and I would be the second person, a New Jersey native, as the Star Ledger wrote. It's a great honor. I'm going to be inspired by what Whitney did, but I can't ever touch what Whitney did. That's the best one ever done. And I just want to show people that I can do it. I feel like people don't really think of me as like a standalone vocalist at times. Like this is gonna be really good.
And did you make sure when they offered it to you, did you sit down and be like, okay, let's make sure I can sing this well before I agree to this? Or did you kind of...
I actually have always wanted to do this, and I recorded a little demo, just me singing with the Rhodes, and sent it to Rock Nation, sent it to Jay Brown, or I guess... I'm told this, I don't know if it's true, he played it for Jay-Z, and Jay-Z loved it, and I hope that's correct. And it got to Goodell, and they all said that I could do it.
So you like applied for the gig, basically.
I applied, I
Wow.
auditioned for it, but like I made up my own audition because I've always wanted to do it.
Rumor has it that they pre-record that because of the cold and stuff.
They'll pre-record bits of it. It's impossible to mic an orchestra and expect that it's going to sound good in a stadium that's filled with 100,000 people that are going to be cheering the whole
Yeah.
time. And sometimes the stadium has no roof. I think most of the time it doesn't have any roof. They'll be playing, but you layer it with, that's what people get confused about.
Yeah.
Whitney sang it,
Right.
but she had bits that were pre-recorded to make sure that it was of the most high quality.
Like backing track.
Yeah.
Type shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you'll be doing.
We'll probably record a violin twice or something, just because I want people to hear the strings.
Yeah. But for you yourself, you're
Oh, no, I'll be singing.
mic will be on.
Yeah,
Wow.
the mic will be on.
So that's real pressure.
Yeah, you know what? It'll be pressure the week leading up to it and the hour leading up to it. But once I'm there, it's going to feel so comfortable. And it's going to sound so good.
You used, I think people get confused about what different kinds of AI are, but you used an AI program to generate a first draft of the choir stuff
Yeah.
for changes.
It's called Replay.
Yeah.
It's a program. It's a standalone program. And it started out with a human, aka me. And there's a setting in there. It made a monovocal sound like 8 to 10 people singing. Of course I'm going to use that to see if I even want the choir sound on there. And then we take it off and replace it with the real choir. That's the correct way of using AI.
Yeah.
But making a song and then like typing in, make this sound different, and it's spitting out a completely different production with stems. It's like nauseating.
Well, there's so much going on with that. One of the things is that a lot of major labels are making deals with these AI companies, and artists weren't necessarily consulted. I mean, it sounds like you're not thrilled about that.
I'm not thrilled with anything if it's used and abused in a wrong way. If it's a collaborative tool and it comes from a human place from the start, there's a lot that has to happen in the next 10 years for it to be okay.
But I mean, the big question I think that no one's kind of grappling with yet is how will AI, how will the fact that in 2 weeks people are like making as many songs as are on Spotify or whatever, on Suna.
Yeah, but
how
they're
will-
not good. Not all of them are good.
But how will this crazy infinite supply of AI music affect real music? And one of the ways I thought is that maybe it makes people aim to be more human, more weird, more individual.
That's what I did on this album. I had to lean into the the human aspect. The vocals couldn't be tuned like they were on my last project. Not everything can be so perfect. Like, keep the incorrect splice in verse 2. No one's ever going to hear it, first of all. And second of all, it makes it feel like a human made it. That's also something Blood Pop really wanted me to lean into. It's like, he was like, how many times can you sing about a relationship from 7-8 years ago? It's all starting to sound the same. The day that an AI engine makes me cry like the way I do when I hear a song like I Can't Make You Love Me does, because right now AI vocals are all perfectly tuned, and it might become smart enough one day where it'll mimic human imperfections, but it's still a robot. I just don't ever see it. I see us humans getting smarter.
Yeah. Credit where credit's due. Beyonce is one of the first people to say, hey, I made Cowboy Carter thinking about all this AI stuff and thinking about, like, we need real instruments, we need real human imperfection. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I need real instruments in my album as well. And again, to reiterate, to really drive this point home, my voice has to kind of deviate from key sometime. That was like really at times hard for me to kind of accept.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, you did tune less on this album, yeah.
I touched up a couple bits, but where the performance was there, but where it was just like a completely, like, it's not even diatonic to the fucking song.
Oh, so you pulled back that hard? Like, you didn't, you just did it the old-fashioned way, and it's like, if it wasn't right, you just do another take.
I mean, if you'll listen to Beat Yourself Up, and after listening to it for 2 months and still not really tuning my vocals that much, just knowing the song like the back of my hand, and then just I did the whole song in one take, essentially. It was the quickest vocal I ever did because I just knew the song so much. I'll probably end up doing that, except with Cringe. That vocal stays, but I'll probably end up changing things at the last minute, maybe up until a week before the album's done.
Give me your pantheon. Give me, like, your 5 greatest songs ever made.
5 greatest songs ever written.
Well, and recorded, because I think for you it's also about the arrangements.
Oh, goodness me. I think Juicy by Notorious B.I.G. I wouldn't. Are you saying like number, like first is the, like, because I wouldn't put that at number one.
You don't have to put it in order. You can just, we'll be.
Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, written by Diane Warren. I think Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by Burt Bacharach.
There's a Burt Bacharach moment on this album. I can't remember. There's a trumpet. Yeah. Which song
On Washed Up, the song about the
yeah.
intervention. Fun fact, the guy, and I know I have 2 more to go, the guy who played the original Jeopardy theme song played on that song.
Whoa, I never even thought about a human being playing that. That's hilarious.
It's real humans,
Yeah.
and real studio musicians and really talented folks on this album. And 2 more, geez. I think, I'm just taking a second because I know the internet lives forever. I think when I heard The Real Slim Shady, produced by Dr. Dre, the snare drum blew me away on that. And probably Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow.
It's so subjective, and I'm sure I didn't even mention a James Taylor song. So if I were to do an honorary mention, I'd say Something in the Way She Moves by James Taylor, which later inspired George to write Something. Chromaticism. That's a lot of things that people don't use nowadays in music. And what McCartney used in Wings and the Beatles always use it. Like, Michelle, my like notes where you can feel where it's going. You don't even have to be the most musically inclined to know. You can just feel it as a human. I don't know how we got there. Yeah, those are 5 really good songs in my opinion.
And you're going on a big tour.
I'm going on a big tour, the Whatever's Clever tour.
Tell me,
world tour.
Yeah, tell me about what you expect from that.
I want to take the experience that I had and that you had at the Blue Note and make it built for the arenas, but still feel intimate and small. It's less about the special effects for me, and it's about the musicianship. There's a lot of musicians on stage with us. I truly believe that we have the best band in all of pop right now. It's about the music in ways that I've always wanted it to be. There's no gimmicks, and sure, we have lights and everything. We have some really talented folks that are starting the show for us, and will inevitably play with us. during the slot, and it's just a celebration of music like it was at the Blue Note. Instead, there will just be 10,000, 8,000, 12,000, however many thousands of people in bigger rooms now. And I've never played Madison Square Garden or the Forum.
You've got this crazy year next year because the same month that your album is due, you have a baby due. And again, congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know how you time that, but
so it's a lot going on in one life, and then you're going to be tour. I mean, it's tough to tour with a new baby. Like, how are you gonna-
honestly, I can't even think about it right now because it's so. That's why my jaw tenses up right now. I always want to make sure that I'm there for baby. I always want to make sure that the baby has a normal life, and we'll have the big headphones on stage, behind stage, and hopefully I can wave to baby.
Oh, so they're coming with you.
Not for everything, because touring is a really unnatural thing.
Yeah.
I just want them to have a normal, like, beginning life.
How does this album, because it is like a pivot, you know, it's probably the biggest pivot of your career. Your second album was a big pivot because it was the moment when you went from kind of a ballady, confused first album to
Yes.
really, that's where you kind of established like first stab at who you really are as an artist, closest thing, you know.
And by the way, I was only allowed to do that because it had a hit on it. If it didn't have a hit on it, I don't know where I would be today. Thank God we had the hits on it, because then they were like, all right, yeah, do whatever you want.
Besides that, this is a huge pivot.
Yeah, it's a huge pivot.
Do you see it as kind of like establishing a direction where you're going to go forward, or you want to leave it open where you can go in a lot of places?
I think sonically, musically, things may change and pivot over the years, but what remains the same is the nucleus of it all. I'm always going to remain myself and tell the truth from now on.
What does that mean?
It means I'm not going to embellish things anymore and be concerned if people are going to like me and think about. Of course, I'm going to always care about what my fans think and what people think of my music. I wouldn't be human if I didn't, but I'm not going to let that consume my life so much that it makes me write music that I end up scrapping because I was just so concerned about what people thought. I'm always just going to remain true to myself, which is just the most lame thing to say, to write ever, but it's true. I'm just going to be me because that ended up being the coolest thing.
Congrats on everything big dropping in 2026.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming, but it's moments like this that I like, where I get to, in almost like a therapeutic kind of setting, I get to kind of lay it all out.
Charlie Puth, thank you so much for joining us for the Rolling Stone interview.
Thank you, sir.
Great to have you.